Good morning, PTO Nice Crowd. It is Monday, and I am in the Phoenix airport for a very short and sweet session this morning. Get started with a little bit of talk on simplicity. When I get my clock started, unfortunately you'll hear some background noise today because I am in the airport. This is like old school style for Jeff, if you can remember back in the day, and I'm about 15 minutes early. So I'm going to just kind of get this rolling and hopefully be able to get my point across quickly before I got to jump on a plane and head back east. All right, so the thing I wanted to talk about today was an observation I had over the weekend, and it's the kind of thing that I think is really important when we're talking about trying to change populations, and in many ways we're in the change business, right? If you stop and really think about what we do in the prevention and health promotion space, we are in kind of the change business. Where our job as we enter, whether it be with an individual, whether it be with the workforce, we're really trying to get them to make a change. So we kind of have to start with that as the groundwork. The second thing is that we know the change process has kind of a stepwise progression. So if you follow things like Readiness for Change, or you follow things like Prochaska and DiClemente, and some of the work that they've done over the course of time, it's kind of this staged process, and it takes some time. So then when you take that idea and you kind of bring it to the masses, you're amplifying it that much greater. And I think one of the main points that seems to get lost when I have conversations and even in coursework is that this idea that changing a group is the same as just changing a bunch of individuals. And that's not the case, right? So we know that groups behave in a very predictable way in many ways. I mean, there's tons of randomness, don't get me wrong, things that you can't predict, but they follow kind of a social prediction that is closer to consistent than we might ever really realize or think about. And so what I wanted to do was talk a little bit about, how do we get after that? So at the root of all of that is this concept of trying to change the culture of a group, right? So if we think of culture as kind of group norms, group behaviors, what's normal in any one group, that sets the stage for how people act, react, and kind of what they do in any given moment. So that's important. To do so, there are kind of predictable levers that we have to be able to pull. And the first one kind of takes the requirement for us to have an understanding that this is going to be slow. And I hate that, and everybody hates that. And it's the kind of thing that people want more information on. They want to know how we do it faster. How do you hack this? The truth is that we're not built to hack this. This is a slow, kind of a steady churn in many ways. You have to just kind of put your time in and continue to be consistent over time. And I think what that comes down to, and it's kind of cool for those of us who are really following the conversation about words and language and pain science and all this other stuff that kind of comes to this conclusion of what you do on a consistent basis helps sort of like decrease the threat detection, which allows you to actually be kind of conscious in the moment. It kind of takes the emotions out of it, which allows you to maybe make a better decision. So all of those things play in when you're dealing with a group. So what I observed this weekend, right? So I'm out in Phoenix. I was out here for a short bit with my daughter. We're doing some soccer stuff, and she was out in what they call a showcase, which is you're basically flying in from all over the country and you're playing a couple of games and a lot of college recruiting going on and that kind of stuff. So kind of a cool experience, but none of that really mattered. The thing that was the most amazing was we decided to go with some of the members of the team and get on horseback and do this, what they call this like sunset horseback ride. Now, granted, I'm not like a huge horseman in any way, shape, or form, and I have no idea really what I'm doing, neither of these kids. But what really was the observation, besides the unbelievable beauty of the area and the landscape, was that the horses knew exactly what to do, right? That they were a group and they behaved as a group, not as individuals, right? When we were in the corral and we were kind of like getting on and everybody was getting ready to ride, I had this horse that was a little bit cranky, like he wanted to go, and he was, kind of like, nudging his way around, and, they told me how to control him, so I was doing okay. But then once we got out on the trail, they all just kind of fell into line. They knew exactly what to do. They knew kind of how to follow. They knew how to kind of stay on cue. If they got separated, that was a big issue. Like you could tell the people who were guiding didn't want us to get separated because once they got a little bit pulled away from the one in front of it, they started to pick up the pace a little bit, which I thought was kind of fun and cool, but I don't think everyone did. But they understood the reactions of the group. And it really got me thinking about the fact that in many ways we all behave the exact same way. We're looking for cues around us at all times, and those cues tell us how to react and how to act. And those cues are set up from, a bunch of stuff. They're culturally handed down from our parents and our grandparents. They're also sort of, based on the environment we're in, and we play different roles based on the people that we're around. And all of that stuff plays into how we make a decision to act in any one given setting. So take that all and kind of think about, whoops, sorry for my hand there. Take that all and think about, I got 5 minutes or less here before we board, the idea that what we're really trying to do is get people to make a different decision based on the context of the situation, and trying to get them to really make a change that then pulls the next person, the next person, the next person. Now, I've talked about the math of this in the past. I've talked about the fact that there's a 25 and 30% need. You have to really get that many people before the group will typically, fall in line and tip. But what we can do is we can kind of grease the skids slowly and steadily. Right, so now take that same concept back, and I'm not trying to compare groups of people to groups of horses, but at some level we're all beings, right? And we all kind of follow very similar cues, and we all kind of follow the same similar patterns. And so if you can take that concept and say, all right, what was it? Was it the sights, the smells, the environment? Was it the track? Was it the fact that there was an obvious trail and they knew that trail? Was it the fact that, the person in front of them, they just kind of kept their head down? As some people say, the scene never changes if you're in second place. Like that idea of like you're just watching the person in front, you're just kind of doing your thing. Or was there more to it? Clearly, there was the rider input. Yeah, no doubt. Like that's the conscious mind, and we hear that analogy sometimes thrown around. The elephant, the rider, and the path, which is kind of neat. But that concept, I think, is really important. So what I want to leave you with is this, and this is kind of the final thought before I jump off on my sort of short and sweet, and then get on the plane. We can see those things if we're willing to pay attention. We can see the cues happening if you step back and look from afar. And you can influence those cues if you're willing to understand that it is slow. So if you keep it simple, and you simple and consistent change that kind of conversation and try to affect the cues, then you can start to show that there was a different result. Like, hey, did you notice I changed this cue and I got a different result, and then celebrate that success. So I'll just kind of wrap it up with what I got. My little rugby team who was playing out on, on the East Coast, I was getting the text from my wife of how it was going. The first game didn't go real well this weekend. They were kind of half asleep, and they kind of got away from their fundamentals. But the beauty of it is that we worked so much on cues and on language that my other coaches were able to just go right in the second game and say, hey, we got away from what we do this, remember this, and let's get right back on track. They did. The next game they did really well. So we can lay down that language, those cues, and we can keep it simple, right? We can use those, as you know, I always use the elements as kind of the basis of that, but anybody can use that, right? This idea that, listen, like when we're all connected, we're stronger. There's strength in numbers, right? Or listen, if we don't move today and I don't get enough movement or a hard enough movement, my body just doesn't feel well. I don't know if you ever noticed that. Or man, I ate like crap out here in Phoenix. I just ate too much garbage and I can really feel it. When we make those connections in people's minds slowly and steadily without trying to change them in the moment, they'll then take that conversation to the next person and those cues will change. Okay, I'm going to leave it there for now. I hope that makes sense. I hope you kind of get this idea that simplicity is one of our major weapons. And if we're willing to sort of do the slow cooking, kind of the slow and steady, simple but consistent approach, groups will react, groups will follow. That we don't need to make crazy rider input. We don't need to guide the horses hard all the time if we're willing to just nudge them in the right direction, and if we're willing to let them sort of do and follow the path that they already know. So we can use that path idea, we can use that analogy, and definitely a shout out to the APHPT Book Jam, who one of their first books kind of used that exact analogy. The Heath Brothers book, I think it was. Okay, I got to roll, got to jump on a plane. I hope everyone does well. Have a great Monday. It's only Monday. I'll be on the other side of the country and back in action in a few hours, but it's only Monday. Make it count.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to the PT on Ice Daily Show. If you enjoyed this content, head on over to iTunes and leave us a review. And be sure to check us out on Facebook and Instagram at the Institute of Clinical Excellence. If you're interested in getting plugged into more ICE content on a weekly basis while earning CEUs from home, check out our virtual ICE online mentorship program at ptonice.com. While you're there, sign up for our Hump Day Hustling newsletter for a free email every Wednesday morning with our top 5 research articles and social media posts that we think are worth reading. Head over to ptonice.com and scroll to the bottom of the page to sign up.